the nugget sounds like it could come right from the Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
He says, "There's nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so."
Oh, okay.
That's a pretty wild statement. It makes you stop and wonder: is there actually good and bad? Is it real, or do we just have this meaning-making machine in our mind that says we're going to call this good today, we're going to call this bad today, right? Is there good or bad in this world, or is everything, as Prabhupada says this very beautifully, he calls it, or is it just a mental concoction?
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator of the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha. Welcome to the show. It's Friday, May 2nd, 2025. This is episode 1591. Welcome to the show. Good morning, everybody. I'm feeling a little hungover. We had a special Mara feast last night. Mara hit it out of the park yesterday. We had a really sweet sort of family get together because my daughter's going away to Europe.
And her birthday's coming
And
up.
her birthday's coming up. She had a little birthday party with her and her boyfriend and my older son Damodar and young Tommy Fawcett came.
Did you give him the deity?
Malati. Did I give who the deity? Oh,
Damodar.
my son. Yeah.
Yeah.
I gave him a long time ago.
Okay. He came.
Yeah.
He came with that deity that we got in Vrindavan, Lord Chaitanya.
Yeah, that beautiful deity.
Yeah.
Mara made vegan sushi, next level, and an incredible vegan tempura, and a next level vegan cheesecake.
I thought you were the tempura guy.
He is. He fries
I
for
am,
me.
but she really. I'm going to give her the credit. I'm just a fryer. I'm just like the
He's a fry cook.
I'm like the
chef.
the line cook. She's the chef. Yeah, it was really sweet. It had a beautiful fire outside. It was a beautiful sunset. And I'm a little hungover because I don't usually eat that.
You've been having a really clean diet. You
very
had
clean diet. Had
Good
a lot
for
of
you.
slice of vegan cheesecake.
Yeah.
Because you went wild on that tour. You were just eating anything there. You
No
stuffed
way,
those
man.
French
I
fries.
was-
I saw you
Super
stuffing those
strict
French
on
fries
that
down.
tour. I didn't have any French fries on the entire tour.
He had French fries once.
I watched you eat the French fries, Raghunath.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
maybe
Twice,
once.
actually. Once at a gas station, once right
Once
before the
at
podcast.
Touring's hard.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right, let's get into this. Enough of your diet. We got to move this on,
My
Raghunath.
diet. I was just sharing how I am. I'm a little hungover today.
Okay. All right.
All right. Anyway, Miss Mara.
Announcements with Mara.
Announcements.
Tell a Friend Friday. So check out our Sage community platform and share our new video promoting Wisdom of the Sages. You can like it and share it on social media to help spread the word about our amazing community.
Where do you find that video?
On the Sage community platform, you go to
Oh, okay.
www.wisdomofthesages.com.
There's a little intro
It's on
video.
YouTube.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
on
it's also on
YouTube.
YouTube.
It's our intro video on YouTube.
Yeah, you
Pass
should
that around,
subscribe.
people.
Subscribe.
Subscribe to YouTube.
Yeah.
Subscribe, like, hit the bell icon, all that stuff.
Also, tomorrow's Q&A day. Our show's at 8 a.m. And if you have a question you want answered, supporting members can post their questions under the questions for the host tab in the community chat.
Okay.
And tune in this Sunday. You're interviewing Naveen Krishnadas, right? Prabhu?
Yeah. He's got
Yeah,
an
that'll
interesting
be
new
later.
book out. We've interviewed him before because he's one of the main people behind the Avanti schools. These, I guess you'd call them Vedic-based, kind of yogic-based schools in England that these Bhakti yogis, these Krishna devotees have begun. They're real successful, widespread. And I think they're government kind of sponsored or whatever, right? Like
It's sort of what you see will happen in the future as the spreading
future.
of Krishna consciousness. Yeah, it's very, very, very impressive.
the government recognizes this is a good thing.
That'd
These are
be
good
very.
values.
And what's his book about?
It's kind of a broad
Yeah.
thing about bhakti, but I think we may talk a lot about the nature of consciousness. It's kind of a broad book. Seems like a pretty good
great.
introductory book. I haven't had the chance to look at it in depth. I got to do that tomorrow.
Okay. the
right.
buzzword now.
What's that?
Consciousness.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Anyway, today's nugget comes from Hamlet.
Shakespeare.
Familiar with Hamlet? Did you read Hamlet in high school?
No, did you? I didn't.
Yeah, I did.
So you know about the story?
Yeah.
You remember anything about it?
There was a ghost in there. Something about Denmark.
Can you share with us the context of this nugget? Read the nugget and then let's work on the context of it.
All right. The nugget sounds like it could come right from the Bhagavatam.
Yeah.
It says, "There is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so."
Oh, okay.
That's a pretty wild statement. It makes you stop and wonder, is there actually good and bad? Is it real? Or do we just have this meaning-making machine in our mind that says, we're going to call this good today, we're going to call this bad today, right? Is there good or bad in this world, or is everything, as Prabhupada says this very beautifully, he calls it, or is it just a mental concoction?
Okay.
Did you get to this thing when you were little and you were like eating vegetables and you're like, I hate these. Like, I can't eat string beans. I can't eat asparagus, stuff like that. And then nowadays as an adult, you're like, well, this is good for me. And you just like, I love this. Even if you don't necessarily love it, we've just thought this is healthy and I'm going to eat it. And I love it. And we get addicted to things that we become accustomed to things that we, quote, love, but it's because I told myself it's healthy for me and I'm going to eat it. But in my childhood state, I was like, no. Or sometimes people probably do that with alcohol. You know, if you were first time you've ever had alcohol, you're like, oh, this is horrible. And then you've told yourself, no, this is normal. This is
Acquire the taste.
how I loosen myself up. This is what we do. This is what adults do. I love this.
This is
I
good
love
alcohol.
Vodka.
This is bad alcohol. This is well, I think it's important, and you've kind of, I think, brought it to the right direction. Is that in Eastern philosophy, we're going to hear statements like "there's neither good or bad in this world," right? But it's not. The important thing we need to clarify right off the bat is that's not talking about morality. It's not saying like there isn't good or bad behavior, like that there's no ethical code. No, that's like something that's deep in, the Dharma as it's presented in the yogic text and the Vedic text. But here, what we're talking about when we say good or bad, it might help us to like translate that as like pleasant or unpleasant, favorable for my happiness. Or unfavorable for my happiness. And it's saying that within this material world, all these things we're looking at, we look at something and we think it's invested with happiness in it, right? If I could touch that body, I'd be happy. If I could eat that chocolate, I'll be happy. If I can, we think happiness lies in these external experiences of the contact of the senses with the object of the senses. Or unhappiness, lies in that contact. And so this becomes labeled as good and that becomes labeled as bad. And it was interesting how you phrased it, like, or is it just our mind that's, what did you call it?
Creating meaning,
creating meaning
machine.
Yeah, right. Sometimes I use this analogy, virtual reality can be really strong with this, or understanding how computers function. Like, if let's say you're sitting in your living room and you put on some goggles and you're in a virtual reality, right? You have the whole equipment there, and it places you on a beach, like, on a secluded tropical island, and it's a really pleasant atmosphere.
But you're really in your living room.
You're just in your living room, but you feel like, oh, I'm on this beach. This is good. And then the programming changes and like there's like some beast coming after you or something. Oh, this is bad. It wasn't good or bad. It was all illusory, actually. You just identified with this experience as good or this experience as bad. But what I think really helps clarify it, and I share this a lot in the courses that I give. But if you take a computer and you attach a camera to it, and you attach a speaker to it, and you put in some files with human recorded voices, then you could program the computer that when you flash a red light in front of the camera, that it triggers a response in the computer, an automated response that says, I like red. And if you flash a blue light in front of the camera, you could program the computer to say, I don't like blue.
Sure.
But is it that therefore red is good and blue is bad. No, the computer's been programmed to respond as if red is good and blue is bad. But you could have programmed it the exact opposite way.
Sure.
So it's not that red is good, blue is bad, or vice versa. It's that the programmer, the computer, has given it that meaning. And so this is what the Vedic teachings are teaching us, and this is what Shakespeare is catching on to. Like in his presentation in Hamlet, where Prince Hamlet says, what was it again? That there's
Nothing's
nothing,
either good or bad.
nothing
but,
is, but thinking.
But thinking makes it so.
But thinking makes it so, right? It's this programming within the mind that we give it a certain value.
You could call it the whistle while you work theory. You know what I mean? You got to do some work. So we're going to whistle. We're going to sing. We're going to add, we're going to say, we're going to make it a good time. We're just going to shift the mind. Or you could call it, is it Tom Sawyer or Huck Finn? Who's the one that made them paint the fence? Like no one wants to paint a fence, whitewash a fence.
But he
somehow convinced everyone, like, this is a great thing. Not only is it great, you're going to pay me to paint the fence.
but what the Vedic teachings are helping us to is not necessarily like make an adjustment in our mind where we think everything is pleasant, but it's kind of to recognize that we're going to go through experiences in this world that are going to be pleasant and unpleasant. Get used to that idea, and then recognize that your happiness doesn't lie in whether you're currently experiencing a pleasant stimulus or an unpleasant stimulus.
Right.
That you have something solid beyond that. But let's see how much you remember, Raghunath. How much do you remember about the context of what Prince Hamlet was going through? Can you tell us?
I don't remember much.
Okay, I don't remember.
I got it confused with the other couple ones I had to read
Hamlet.
about Shakespeare.
King Lear or something. Well, I did a little research.
Okay.
So Prince Hamlet, he was away at college. Like they were all from Denmark, and he was in Germany in school. And
I'm thinking about Macbeth. That's right. The witch there was no witch in Hamlet. I don't.
There was a ghost though.
Oh, there was a ghost. Okay.
Yeah, no, there was a ghost. But what happens when he's away? His uncle Claudius kills his father by pouring poison in his ear.
Whoops.
And then his uncle marries his mother. And then they call him back to Denmark. And now he was happy in Germany. Now he's back in Denmark. And he's going through this whole existential crisis where like he's questioning morality because he's thinking like, should I kill my uncle? Is it wrong that I kill my uncle? If it seems like I must kill my uncle, like that's the right thing to do. Or am I just kind of like becoming part of the same kind of action that I'm condemning by killing him, and so he just becomes all confused on a moral level. On the level of justice, he's saying, how can such an evil man as my uncle thrive? Is there any justice in this universe? But I think especially relevant to what we're reading about today is like on the level of perception. He's like, I had this vision of my mother as like this pure, loving being, and now she marries my father's killer. And Claudius sends Hamlet's old friends to visit him, but he sends them as spies. So now he's dealing with these were my friends, but actually they're operating as spies. And then there's this whole ghost, and he doesn't know if the ghost is real. So he's really questioning his perception altogether and really questioning, is anything in this world good or bad? Or he's living in Denmark, and his friends are saying, why aren't you happy? Denmark's a great place to be. And to them, they're happy there. To him, he sees it like a prison. And so it's like, is Denmark good or bad? It's the way that we're thinking about it. That it's not that pleasant life or unpleasant life is invested within this place. It's how my mind's been programmed to respond to it. That's a really important key in yoga, right? We'll never gain self-discipline. And a lot of times I see these people have taken the Vedic teachings and all the brilliant wisdom in them.
Yeah.
And then they want to become these guru figures, right?
Yeah.
But they don't like the way that they get followers is they borrow so much of the wisdom from it, but then they put a twist on it where you don't actually have to discipline yourself, right? Like I can give you all this wisdom and you can do exactly what you want to do in life. So, right? So they'll say, you know, they'll say there is no good and bad in this world. They'll take that there. We say that in order, so therefore discipline yourself. Don't be attracted to the things that you think are good. They'll say, no, nothing's bad, right? So indulge in everything because nothing is either good or bad in this world. The point is that we need to go within. We need to have the ability to go within. And if we allow ourselves to become attracted to every external thing that our mind is programmed to think is pleasant, we'll be stuck. We'll be paralyzed spiritually. Right. So look for those cheaters. They're out there. They're all over the place. That's
just taking these teachings out of context and running with one statement, and there's no discipline.
They take something that's profound and they try to borrow its depth, and they contradict it. You know, and they contradict it. All right.
Anyway, that's what we're going to dive in today.
We'll read about a whole lineage of kings. Actually, we won't read about them. We'll talk about it because we'll summarize it. But how all these kings had this self-realization, they had this ability to see the world through the eyes of knowledge and not become bewildered by the quote-unquote good things and bad things, pleasant and unpleasantness of this world.
So we reached the verse chapter 30.
Sloks?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam mudirayat. Before reciting the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, which is a very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu bhadreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes in the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 12. Text 1.
No.
Chapter 9, Chapter 13.
Yeah, we're gonna. So let's. Chapter 12 is entitled "The Dynasty of Krusha."
That's right. The dynasty. So it's really just a list of all the. We're gonna skip Chapter 12. Yeah, basically it's going through the entire lineage up to past Ram.
That's right. So and then chapter 13 is the same thing up until you get to the very last verse. So there's really just a long list. This person's son was this person. This person's son was king this. This king had a son. He became king that. And you know, sometimes we mention this. It's like I suppose it's a way of setting these events and teachings into a historical context that can be what's the word I'm looking for? Like you can take this and you can put it on top of something that you're going to read in Mahabharata or Ramayana or something, and you can see like, okay, I put the connections together. This lineage is coming down at that time. He was living at that time. Over here in this text I'm reading about someone else that was existing, and
these Puranic stories are woven into each other. So you get a little Ramayana in this, you get a little Mahabharata in this. You get a little bit of Garuda in this, a little bit, and you can find them in all of their in all the other Puranas and stories, and they all sort of can be woven together.
Yeah,
they reappear and disappear and come back again.
Yeah. So you know, India is a culture that places a lot of importance on, you know, your lineage, your family, your birth, how it came down, your responsibility in relation to that, and so on. We don't think so much about that. I don't know the names of my great-grandparents, you know. But, you know, in India, there's a lot more emphasis on that kind of thing. Yeah. You know, following that lineage back. So they're saying, here's the lineage as it's coming down. Let's name all the people. You're going to hear about them in other places. We're going to tell you, you know, we're going to just give you the list as it goes down. And so again, the 13th chapter entitled The Dynasty of Kusha, the son of Lord Ramachandra. It begins, we heard the end of the telling of the story of Lord Ram in the Bhagavatam yesterday, which concluded chapter 11. And then chapter 12 and chapter 13, which is called the Dynasty of Maharaj Nimi. They're just long lists. But another thing that they're doing is they're kind of like, by having this kind of monotony,
Yeah.
going on for some time, then when it
Because
breaks
it's
the monotony.
monotonous. If you're reading along,
Yeah.
it's got nothing to do with the story. It doesn't keep our interest.
I suppose if you know who all these people are, then it's stimulating.
Yeah, you can be
Ideas
like,
and
oh,
thoughts
that's
and-
where that person comes into the
Yeah.
picture. He's in the line of Ikshvaku, in the line of Ram, in the line of Dasarath.
Yeah. So you, in one sense, we're hearing a long list that's kind of monotonous, but then when the monotony is broken, then that grabs your attention.
Yeah.
It kind of becomes framed. And so that's where we go with we're going to just jump forward now to the very last verse
Chapter 13.
of chapter 13, which is text number 27, where
Yeah.
Shukadeva Goswami speaks.
Okay. Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, all the kings of the dynasty of Matillaa were completely in knowledge of their spiritual identity.
Wow.
Therefore, even though staying at home, they were liberated from duality."
From the duality of material existence.
Oops, did I miss that?
Editing as you go. Yeah.
Uh,
So this is an interesting statement, right?
Yeah.
First of all of your leaders, he mentions a lot. So how many generations? It's probably at least 20 generations that are mentioned, saying that all of these leaders, they were self-realized. They understood their spiritual identity. They weren't materialistic. They had this deep inner spiritual understanding and vision. That's huge right there. It's like,
And yet they didn't renounce the world. They ruled. They lived at home, but they transcended the duality of happiness and distress. This
Well,
is real
that's-
liberation.
that's
Right,
the
this
other
is
interesting thing, right?
Very interesting.
Commonly, when we think of people
There's-
that transcend duality, we think
Right.
you need to walk away from the duality of our world in order to transcend duality in your inner world.
If you just go to Amazon and put in, for like you're looking for a book,
Yeah.
put the word monk
Okay.
in that search. So many books on a monk. I was a monk. The monk who sold his Ferrari. Punk to monk. Think like a monk.
Punk to
Everything's a
monk.
monk. And they're like, well, yeah, we're monks. I want to be spiritual. I want to be a monk. You don't have to be a monk. You don't
Right.
have to be a monk. These guys were beyond monks. They were liberated souls doing probably the most, what appears materialistic job ever. Not just like they were householders, not just like they worked in a factory, not just like the guy was an artisan. The guy ruled the guy, Ram, but also kings of this lineage. They ruled the entire nation, if not empire, and they're considered liberated. What valuable information. How do I keep my family, not get rid of my family, not get rid of my partner, not get rid of my home, not get rid of my work, but how do I purify myself in doing what I'm doing? Do I have to let go of anything? What do I let go of? What do I hold on to? What do I have to shift in my consciousness? What do I have to project is now good instead of bad, right? And what meaning do I have to add to things that are actually going to help me? And what do I actually accept? This is no good for my moving forward and progressing in my spiritual life. Super interesting stuff here. Bhakti Yoga. Stay there and just go deeper inside.
Yeah, that the world of duality that we're living in one sense, even by going to the cave, you can't escape it, right? Even by going off into the forest.
No,
In
I
one
say that all
sense,
the time because
it's-
you're bringing your mind with you.
Yeah. Well, but even still, it's like still there's going to be day and night, and still there's going to be hot and cold, and still there's, you can't really fully get away with it. But it's a fact, if you walk away from like business concerns, right? Let's say it starts with family concerns, right? And it all starts with like, okay, I want this spouse, right? Like let's say in a typical, like using typical gender roles, like a man marries a woman, right? Brings pleasure and enjoyment into his life, sexually, emotionally, in terms of children and so on. But now I need to become a provider, right? So even within that, even within the family that gives me joy, let's say the children become problematic in some way, whether they suffer in some way, they have bad health. now I'm suffering. What was bringing me joy, now is bringing me suffering. Duality, right? Let's say or let's say they're disobedient, right? Or let's say there's some tragedy. The very source of what was good one day now becomes bad. What was pleasant one moment now becomes unpleasant. Let's say the relationship with a spouse, what was so pleasant becomes so painful, right? To the degree that it was pleasant, to that degree that it becomes painful. That's duality. And then you have to provide the home and everything then you have to go out into the business world. And in the business world, you're going to come across so much more duality, right? Today's a good day in business. Today's a bad day in business. Your stock market's up, stock market's down. You know, this person, I have no competitors. Now I do have competitors. It's a world of duality, and it's very, you become, washed back and forth in the waves of that. It's a fact that if you walk away with that, if you walk away from that, it definitely can turn the volume down on the dualities and the power and the pull that they have on us. So there's a logic to that. But here we're hearing about these were kings. These were that had the most responsibility and the most public. As soon as you're out there in the public, there's criticism and there's praise and there's criticism. There's wealth and then there's loss of wealth. There's victory and then there's defeat. All of that's going to be really, the volume is going to be really turned up when you're the king. Here's a list of so many generations of kings, and they all achieved this state of being beyond duality, transcending duality, even though they remained in that realm. As you were saying, Raghunath, it's a really interesting idea that realm, which commonly people think you need to escape to transcend duality, you can embrace that realm as the field of your yoga, the field of your contemplation, my work, my family, but do it with the right knowledge, see it through the right eyes, and it can actually become a very, very powerful way of performing yoga, place for performing yoga. All right.
Alrighty.
Want to read the commentary to this first?
Yeah, here's the purport. This material world is called Dvaita, or duality. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, you ready for my Bengali imitation?
Okay.
Praita Badra Badra Gyana Shabba Manodharma. E
Monodharma.
Bala E Manda Se Shabba Brahma. That was pretty bad.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
In the world of duality, that is to say, in the material world, so-called goodness and badness are both the same. What? Shakespeare? What? Therefore, in this world, to distinguish between good and bad, happiness and distress, is meaningless because they are both, here it is, mental concoctions, manodharma.
Yeah, let's go back to that example I was using before, right, of the computer. Whether red is good and blue is bad or vice versa, it's neither. It's the programming within the computer that so-called makes them good or bad. And so here Prabhupada's saying the same thing. The good and the bad, the happiness and distress of this world is meaningless because they are mental concoctions. It's how our brain has been programmed to respond to them. Just as Hamlet was saying, I could look at Denmark through this mental programming. You're looking at he's talking to his friends. You're looking at Denmark through your mental programming. And you're saying, this place is lovely. It's a great place to be. I'm looking at it through my mental programming, and I'm saying Denmark's a prison. It's neither a good place or a prison. It just has to do with how the mind's been programmed to respond to it. Okay.
Because everything here is miserable and troublesome, to create an artificial situation and pretend it to be full of happiness is simply an illusion. Right? This is what we do. We project the material world is a happy, life is good.
Right.
The liberated person, being above the influence of the three gunas, the three modes of material nature, is unaffected by such dualities in all circumstances. He remains Krishna conscious by tolerating so-called happiness and distress. This is also confirmed, right? It's stripping the romance off the material world. Sometimes we got to put a happy spin on it just to make it through the day, but it is, in the ultimate scheme, we're getting better, we're getting stronger, we're getting more connected. That's what we see this life as. If I walked around Kaustubha and just thought the whole world is miserable, I don't think I could get out of bed in the morning. I have a positive spin on my life. I make it seem like a good place. But as devotees, we also have to put a above that.
Yeah.
We have to actually be very grave and see what the material world actually is. It's a temporary world.
And it's not that it's not providing the positive alternative. It's saying that when you, it's interesting here that Prabhupada used the word tolerating, right? He's saying tolerate so-called happiness and distress, even the pleasant things, tolerate them. Let's read the verse that he quotes, such an important verse, and discuss.
Well, you know
it.
what devotees say? If you say, how, if you ask a devotee who's been around a while, like, hey, how are you doing? What do they answer, Mara?
Like something like, I'm okay for today.
Yeah, they'll be very, very, they'll say, today I'm great. Meaning we understand deeply that at any moment,
That's going to be
everything can crumble. I think that's a very sober way to look at reality. Right now, I'm feeling okay. Anyway, what were you about to say?
So let's read this verse. Prabhupada, he says that the person, I'll go back a second. He said the liberated person, being above the influence of the three modes of nature, the constantly changing modes in this world, they're unaffected by such dualities in all circumstances, right? The most horrible tragedy can come, they're unaffected. The apparently the most pleasant, shift in environment, that also they're steady-minded through that. He says they remain Krishna conscious by tolerating so-called happiness and distress, and then he says this is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 2:14.
Famous verse here. O son of Kunti, Arjuna, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of the winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed.
Right. So that word here, titikshava, right? There's another famous verse with titikshava.
Yep, the symptoms of a sadhu.
The symptoms titikshava karunaka surdam sarvadehinam majatra satra sauchabhyam. What is it? Sadhava sarabhushana.
They are adorned,
Yeah.
right? These are all the qualities that adorn a sadhu.
Yeah, the bhushana means like the jewels, the ornaments. Sadhu bhushana means a real sadhu, a real saintly person. These are their ornaments. And the first one that it mentions, the very first one that it mentions, titikshava, tolerance, right? If someone, how do we understand if someone is deeply spiritual, if someone's a sadhu? Well, the first thing that we should see is that they're tolerant, whether something is unpleasant or something is pleasant externally. They're okay. They're not, I tell you, you just have to open up Instagram and start sliding through, right? Or Facebook or YouTube.
Yeah.
And you're going to see people coming through with all kind of like heavy emotional responses to all kind of different things.
Screaming their heads
Screaming
off.
about this, screaming about that. Now they're crying. Now they're all elated. Look, I'm at the beach now. Isn't it great? And then they're taking it's this swinging back and forth between what's pleasant and we highlight each of these, kind of like poles of material existence, of material duality. When we see a saintly person, they're titikshava, they can tolerate it. They're not going to be rocked by it. It's the first thing that's being mentioned. And here it's the example that this very kind of the beginning of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita, right? Within the first 3 real verses where Krishna begins to teach, he comes out with this saying that the happiness and distress in this world are like the winter and summer seasons. It comes and it goes. And you can't change the winter and you can't change the summer. Don't get caught up in trying to. It's not like the thermostat in your home, right? You can't change the summer, you can't change the winter, but what you can do is realize, you know what? There are going to be pleasant days in terms of the weather, and there are going to be unpleasant days in terms of the weather. Let me prepare myself for it and tolerate it and focus on what I'm meant to focus on. And that's a philosophy we can take to our whole life, right? There's going to be, I'm going to have good fortune will come, good fortune will go. Pleasant things will enter into my life, and then they'll exit my life. Unpleasant things will enter, they'll also exit. It's like the changing of the seasons. Tolerate it. Don't get caught up in trying to adjust it too much. And focus on what you're meant to accomplish in this life.
Like it. Those who are liberated being on the transcendental platform of rendering service to the Lord, did not care about so-called happiness and distress.
I don't care.
They know that these are like changing seasons, which are perceivable by contact with the material body.
Mhm.
Happiness and distress come and go, and therefore a pundit, right? One who's actually learned. We've taken this word pundit, it's become an Americanized, anglicized word, pundit. It means one who's sort of astute, a financial pundit generally. But a
Political
pundit
pundit.
means a political pundit, but a real pundit is one who actually can understand that the soul is different than the body. That's where it comes from. One who's actually learned, right?
Yeah.
A pundit, a learned man, is not concerned with this happiness and distress. As it says, agatasun agatasungs cha nanu sochanti panditaha. The body
that
is
say?
dead from the very beginning because it is a lump of matter. It has no feeling of happiness and distress because the soul within the body is in the bodily concept of life. They suffer happiness and distress, but these come and go.
Hmm.
It's understood herewith that the kings born into the dynasty of Matillaa were all liberated, unaffected by the so-called happiness and distress of this world. It's pretty interesting too, like the bloodlines of liberated kings. How do you get that way? Because you've been training your children, and their children have been training their
Right.
children, and you have heroes and villains and archetypes to look up to behave. You have boundaries within the family and stuff, and you have a culture that supports that as well. It's sort of a free-for-all right now, isn't it?
It is,
We've created a free-for-all.
I think like a lot of the popular dramas of our day are
Dramas like
like
TV
any
shows.
television show. Like nowadays is a time where like there's a lot of these television shows really make it big, and they're they go on for years. Game of Thrones or whatever, The Sopranos or Breaking Bad or whatever. And who's the hero and who's the villain is kind of like they kind of get you cheering and rooting for and against the same
the bad
people. Like,
guys.
yeah, well, yeah, it's like kind of like you're rooting. At one moment you're against the villain, and then the next minute you're rooting for the villain. And um, in one sense, it's important to show like there's good and bad in everyone. That's that can
Right.
be an interesting thing to illustrate. But it's almost like saying, you know what, those stories where there was a clear like virtue and that's kind of like a childish kind of story. It's like we need to mix it. We're more mature than that. We kind of relish like the gray area.
Sure.
But what you do is our societies they're not very good at kind of like just kind of clarifying. You don't move through life just having a clear idea about what is virtue and what isn't. And so yeah, here we have apparently these lineages that are going on and on, like 20 generations or so of self-realized kings. Yeah, this ethical code had to be deeply instilled in them, and that wasn't seen as like some kind of oppression. That was seen as like, no, the preservation of knowledge, of wisdom, of it's something very valuable, and they had their system for handing it down.
Sometimes there were lineages of family lineages and family rituals and family, the families learned how to invest their money and how to save their money and certain code of certain ways our family does things, and it's almost been preserved. But the ethical and the character development was
Yeah.
lost. We kept all the externals of what the importance of a family lineage, the bloodline of a family lineage, the wealth of a family lineage, the pride of a family lineage, the coat of arms of a family lineage, but maybe the character of where this is coming from in the first place perhaps has been lost.
Right. And so again, I believe that's part of the reason why we have two chapters that are just listing names. Again, those names, you'll be able to hear those names ringing out in other literature. But yeah, each one of these people was self-realized. Each one, and there's something significant about them. And by remembering them, this is the idea, right? That by remembering them, you what's good in you is encouraged, right? You feel the pull to rise to the level of your predecessors. That's called, civilization, right? It's like
Right.
that we should have a clear idea of what, how my character is meant to rise.
I want my
and-
great grandfather to
and-
be proud of me.
Yeah, exactly.
Who thinks
Exactly.
who thinks like that? I want my great grandfather to be proud. No, my
It's clearly not as well established as it should be, So that's there in these lineages now. Now, of course, there was this second theme in this. There are kind of two themes here, right? One is that the good and the bad of this material realm are mental concoctions, manodharma, right? There's something that we create in our mind. That's a liberating idea right there. That's a huge thing. If you realize that, it gives you the potential to become free of the programming in your mind. We think we're free when we're pursuing the programming in our mind. I'm free to go out and get what I want. No, you're just following the programming in your mind. So that can grant you that freedom to break free. But the other theme here was that you can achieve this state living in the world of duality, full of with full-on social responsibility, which is a different message. It's a message that really is born in the Bhagavad Gita, right? You don't see there so much in the Upanishads, which are more encouraging you to take sannyas, to walk away from it all. But in the Bhagavad Gita, it becomes spelled out really clearly for the first time that embrace your duty, do it with knowledge, do it with detachment. Don't spend your time trying to shift the material realm for your pleasure. Act in this world, as an emblem of dharma, as an instrument of ultimately the love and the compassion of God. Tolerate the external things that come your way, and that your real happiness will lie in transcending that duality, not in trying to manipulate the external circumstances. So that's a liberating thing right there. How can you do it in the material realm? Bhagavad Gita is going to say so much. I'll read you a verse from Bhagavad Gita, Raghu, okay?
Please.
This is a verse that clarifies that it's kind of like it reaches a point. Arjuna was thinking, when he hit that crisis that opens up in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita. If I fight this war, life is miserable. If I win it, life is miserable. If I lose it, life is miserable. He's completely shaken up, and he's thinking, the men of this, I've been trained to be a man of the world, right? To be a ruler, to be a king, to be a warrior. Why do men engage in this battle? They establish their reputation, they gain power, they gain wealth, they gain fame. I have all those things in my life. And look where it's led me right now, to this full anxiety that I'm feeling right now. I want to have peace, detachment, inner happiness. And who gets it? The kings don't get it. The warriors don't get it. The rulers don't get it. The yogis have it. I've seen them. I've lived out there in the forest with them, right? I've seen how they have this inner peace. I think I want to become one of them. And isn't the way that you become one of them by walking away from the world? Shouldn't I walk away from my social responsibility from being a warrior right now? And shouldn't I just go off and be a yogi, right? Krishna's trying to help him understand, Arjuna, that won't work for you, right? Like you said earlier, you bring your mind with you. You walk out to the forest, you'll bring your mind with you out there. But there is a way that you can be a yogi and be a king at the same time. You can be a yogi and be a warrior at the same time. And when in Arjuna's, it's just not clicking with him. They seem like two separate paths to him. How do the two combine into one path? And at the beginning of the 6th chapter, text 6.1, Krishna makes this, it's like, you still don't get it, you still don't get it. He makes this emphatic statement where practically he says, the one that embraces their social roles is the real yogi, is the real mystic, is the real sannyasi, not the one who does all the external things. So this is that verse, Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Sri Krishna says, he says, one who is unattached to the fruits of their work, right? There's a lot implied in that statement right there, right? That's all the Upanishads are talking about, how to become detached, right? How not to be. The Vedas were about okay, you're attached to to good karma, the fruits of good work. Okay, here's how to achieve that. The Upanishads say, ignore that, right? Don't pursue the fruits of the work. So one who is unattached to the fruits of works, and yet who works as they're obligated, who does their duty, who does their svadharma, their external duty in this world, being a father, being a mother, being a business person, or whatever it is that you do in this world, the social roles, who works as they're obligated, is in the renounced order of life. He literally says they are sannyasi, right? You're married, you have a job, you have kids, but you're working in this world without attachment, you're a sannyasi. You're actually renounced. And it says, and he is the true mystic, which is actually the word here is yogi. He's the sannyasi, he's the yogi. And then he says, and not he who lights no fire or performs no duty. Right? So he's saying that actually the person that walks out into the forest isn't a renunciate. Now, of course, they might be. But Krishna is just being so emphatic here that don't think the externals are what this is all about. It's the renunciation. Advancing in spiritual life is going to require renunciation, but not necessarily external renunciation. It's going to require that you let go of everything within. And the path for you, Arjuna, that's going to be much more conducive for you is to let go while you're engaged in the work of this world, but while you're engaged as a warrior.
That's it. When we shift our consciousness, even a palace becomes like an ashram.
Mm-hmm.
So our homes, our workplace, our relationships, wherever we are, that can be the field of contemplation. That can be the place where we grow into yogis, where we're actually meant to be.
Yeah. All right, Raghu. Should we check in with Mara?
Hi, Mara.
Hi.
Mara is obsessed.
With what?
Yes.
She's binging.
Oh,
What? Oh, that
podcast.
podcast you're talking
Yeah.
I'm binging too.
Yeah, that's why
It's really unbelievable, and it really endorses everything we talk about on the show too. The telepathy tapes. It really does, man.
Telepathy or telepathy?
Telepathy.
Telepathy.
Telepathy. Telepathy. Telepathic telepathy.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah, it's really good.
It's really good. We got into animals too. And it brings me back to this whole thing of Maharaj Bharat and the deer, and that and animal whisperers.
There are autistic telepathic animals out there?
There's animals that can I mean, we've just are out of tune. We're just out of tune. And you can have it too, Kaustubha. You just gotta listen.
Okay, I gotta listen to
Gotta
who?
listen.
Raghu can help.
Just
I
gotta
can help
listen.
you.
Okay, Raghu.
I can help you. You just gotta listen to the animals.
Listen to that
Talk to you.
podcast.
Yeah. All right. You ready for some takeaways?
Yes. I will be listening.
Our minds are meaning-making machines.
Oh,
That's a
wait a
good one.
second. She was on Joe Rogan also?
Raghunath, just listen. Can you listen just for a moment?
I was listening to the message board. Now I want you to listen to me.
Just listen, Raghunath. Listen.
All right. All right. You're still reading the chat board.
I know I'm listening to the chat board.
All right.
There.
Oh, look, she's punishing
Yeah,
me.
yeah, there you go.
Turned off
Just
the
take
chat.
it down. Jake, take it down.
Recognize our happiness doesn't lie in a pleasant experience.
Right. Right. It's
I
within.
recognize that.
You'll be paralyzed spiritually if you follow everything your mind is attracted to.
Just try to listen to this.
You know what else it brought up? My father was in a coma.
Yeah.
And it's this whole thing about if you can't communicate, you
Mm.
still have an inner life. It really made me think about that too. And I dropped the ball with that. I could have been very, very, maybe if I did, yeah.
I think your dad had an auspicious passing, though.
I think he had an auspicious passing, but I felt like he was probably trapped in his body.
Mm.
Just
You know,
try to listen, Raghunath. Listen.
I'm talking about something serious there, the joker, jester.
I'm not joking.
Father's in a coma, and you're cracking jokes.
Now you're trying to. You see now his techniques here, Mara. Right? You're learning his techniques. I'm sure
Yeah.
you could write
Taking
a book on
notes.
his techniques.
You can rule the world and transcend happiness and distress.
It can be done. You see, now he's gone. He's in another world now.
I'm thinking if I was in a coma, would my kids even
Your kids
see
could
me?
camp. Are you kidding? Of course they
your
would.
kids
They
care.
would
They love
chant,
you.
but they wouldn't come every day.
Going every day is a lot.
Yeah, go
I
there it
know,
is.
but then I'm alone. Will you come every day?
Yeah, of course.
Well, let's hear it for Genevieve Pretty, who goes out there weekly
Yeah. to
and
go see
visits
Bhakti
Bhakti
Louis.
Louis. That's something she
Genevieve
travels
Pretty's
all
a
the
good-
way.
You know
from.
what, Genevieve
Yeah.
Pretty, you're doing the right thing. Listen to the telepathy tapes.
Especially, it's one thing like the first week or the first month to go and visit, but I mean,
To
once
show
it's
up on a
been-
regular
yeah,
basis.
for
It's still you're
years.
there. It's just the machine's not working.
What she did for him. It's hard to imagine what a person in that state is going through.
If anyone doesn't know what we're talking about, one of our listeners
Yeah.
from the very beginning of the show
Old,
got into
old
a-
friend going back to when we're kids.
Yeah, like from when we were kids, they got into a tragic. Was it an accident or an attack?
I think
Still
he,
don't know if
I
we
think
got to the bottom of
I
it.
think someone attacked him,
Like a mugging, and it put him in a coma.
and he's been there for a long time. And Genevieve Pretty goes, she goes from well, now she goes from East Harlem. Gets on the train, Penn Station, goes out to New Jersey, then walks 20 minutes to get to this hospital and visits him every week. Just give him a little rub on the head and a little hold the hand and a little kind look in the face and a few sweet words, but a little kirtan, and she also set it up so that 24 hours a day, we met, I went out there and we all met one of the nurses, a few of the nurses, and one guy in particular, kind of understood who we were and what hardcore was and what Krishna consciousness was. He kind of had a little bit of a framework for that. And we said, please, make sure we want to take care of him. So Genevieve Pretty brought in one of these things that plays this Prabhupada 24 hours a day, lectures and music. And,
great.
And we told him, please make sure that this is always playing in his room.
And if that's the case,
yeah.
what an auspicious way to be. If you have some karma where you're going to get taken out like that physically,
Yeah.
just hearing and chanting all
Have
day
that
where you can't
auspicious
turn it
sound.
off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
This world.
The
is
most
mysterious.
unfortunate circumstance could, in one sense, become the most fortunate circumstance.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay.
Back to our takeaways.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay.
Mara?
You bring your mind with you wherever you go, even to the cave.
That's right. Take it with you.
Yep.
We're getting tumbled in duality.
Tumbled into
yes.
Mhm.
Tumbled, humbled and tumbled.
Humbled and tumbled in duality.
And
Bumble.
As if we're in a rumble.
Bumble.
I'm fumbling.
I
Crumble.
fumble. I fumble.
Mumble.
I
At
mumble.
any
Jumble.
moment, at any moment, everything could crumble.
And jumble.
And we might fumble.
A real sadhu is tolerant.
What's
That's
that?
the first thing.
A
Real
real
sadhu
sadhu
is tolerant.
And merciful. Merciful is the second one. You tolerate, you give mercy.
Okay, next time Kaustubha says something, maybe like tolerance.
Raghunath, talk to me
He's
about
very
tolerance.
Don't get caught up in trying to change the seasons. Prepare, tolerate, and keep your focus.
Okay.
Don't go changing to try to please me.
Tolerate, Mara. Tolerate.
Remember the self-realized kings and forefathers to understand our own potential.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And
And
is Denmark good or bad? Depends on your mental programming.
that's right.
Oh.
Denmark. Have you spent time in Denmark, Raghu?
Yeah, I played at Christiana. It's one of the old squats. That's
Okay,
like a club where bands play. I played at the Roskilde Festival.
But
with,
did you just pass through quick, or did you have some time
I
to
never
spend
I never hung out there.
there?
The most I did, yeah,
Yeah. Denmark.
played
Good
in.
or bad?
Depends on how you look at it, really. Anyway, guys, if you're interested in what's going on at Super Soul Farm, including the Wisdom of the Sages retreat, check out raghunath.yoga/SSF, Super Soul Farm. Lots of retreats coming up, including Wisdom of the Sages retreat Memorial Day weekend. Me and Lord Pags, July 18th retreat for
Bobby and
yoga. Bobby and
Junior.
Tita Sundari are doing a retreat.
In June.
Is Bobby doing a women's retreat too?
Yeah, I think that's beginning of August.
Beginning of August.
Weekend.
Carla and Ramit are doing a retreat.
Yeah.
Jai Yoga.
End of August or middle August.
Yeah. And then we're probably going to wrap up the year with another Wisdom of the Sages retreat.
Look at that baby Davy.
Beba Deva. Radhe. Of course, October 29th, November 11th, pilgrimage.
I booked my
Everyone
ticket.
going
I'm
to
going to come up there to Super Soul Farm for a night.
Oh, did you get
Yeah.
your train ticket yet, Prabhu?
Me, Kaustubha, and
I got the
Mare,
train
the
ticket.
the tricycle, the 3 wheels,
Three Musketeers.
the 3 musketeers.